everyone, and welcome back to GirlDad. I'm Abigail Frechette,
And I'm Peter Frechette.
and this is part two from last week's episode. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, go ahead and go back to that one. And we are just gonna jump right into that right now. Moving forward a little bit, do we want to talk about average career length?
Sure.
So this is something that I think will lead us a little bit into some money stuff, kind of, and maybe a little more into the the capitalism and the corporate of it all. But I did a little research here and I kind of just did like top five sports: football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, top five American sports, I should preface. Um, and the the sport with the longest average career length is soccer, with kind of a generous amount here, but it's 8 to 11 years. The reason I think that this career length is the longest is I think that this is because there's likely no college, and you start professionally much younger. So I think something to take into account with the rest of these sports is that a lot of the people who are starting their professional career, if you add 3 years of college play, give or take a couple, maybe 5 years, 4 years, you know, that's you're playing professional college football. It's not actually professional, right? But like the level you're
But
playing
it
at,
is.
right, it is
But now
professional,
but
right?
now it is. So now
Well,
it's
yeah.
it's all to be added on. And this is
Yeah.
actually very interesting because I saw your list and
Yeah.
go through how much they are and then I will
Yeah.
comment on it.
So, I mean, 8 to 11 years, and you have these guys. I mean, the youngest player on Fulham right now is 16 years old. So he could be playing much past that. But again, like he's starting pro way younger than the average like American football player would be starting a professional career on the Patriots, right? So the average baseball player is the next highest with 5.6 years. Average hockey player is 5.5 years. Basketball is 4.5 years, and football is the lowest with 3.3 years. Obviously, position comes into account here. We discovered that the kicker is the highest and the quarterback is the next highest, but you know, other than that, they're all around 3.3. But yeah, so what did you want to bring up with that?
No, just well, first of all, the fact that when you look at football and basketball mainly, and I guess probably with baseball and hockey too, for college,
Yeah,
those guys are starting to get paid now. So
yeah,
those careers get longer. So a football player
absolutely.
who makes the NFL is going to be probably 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Baseball, I don't know qualifies as um, what qualifies you for these numbers. But if you're
Mm,
a baseball player
mm,
who gets drafted, and I mean, you look at there's each team in Major League Baseball has three, four, five minor league teams. So
right.
if you get drafted and you go sign and you go to rookie league and then you go to A ball and then you go to double A and then you go to triple A. Well, now you're 4 years in and you haven't
Yeah.
made a whole lot of money. Maybe
Yeah.
you did, maybe you got a big signing bonus, but, and you think about that's four, 3 or 4 leagues that
Yeah.
are, have the, so there's 3 times as many players in the minor leagues as there are in the major leagues.
Right.
So um, the average the average major league salary is not the average professional baseball salary. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, these minor league guys, that are there and playing for 3 years and they get to AAA and that's as far as they're going to go.
Yeah.
Some of them will chase the dream for another 3, 4, 5 years, and
Yeah.
the owners are happy to have them
Of
continue to
course.
play because they need bodies. And if they're, if the guy's
Absolutely.
a 250 hitter in AAA, he serves a purpose.
Of
And
course.
so
And you're still
that's
making
kind
money
of,
off of him.
yeah, exactly. And that's what I was thinking. And, hockey, maybe I don't know. It's they play juniors, which is not a pro thing, so it's probably that's actually more. The 5.5 years is probably more of is accurate, but with the 5.5 years for baseball, okay, but what's the average major league career? I don't know. But
Yeah.
that's just some things to think about. But you're right,
Yeah.
and it's getting to and the owners are making money off these guys all the way through,
Well,
and
that's
that's
kind of the thing I'm thinking about is like if you, okay, I mean, obviously we mentioned the thing with college before, but excluding college, just looking at these numbers is even looking at baseball is that's 5.5 years at the Red Sox.
yeah.
That's a decent amount of money, right? These are all decent, you're getting a good chunk of change, right? But even if you're, you know, like let's say you're not Tom Brady, right? If you're playing 3 years of a professional football career, you're probably not a superstar, right? You're an average guy on the team, but you made it to professionals, right? You're making a good chunk of money. Maybe you get a couple brand deals, but they're not going to be like Nike, right? You're not making like that kind of money either. But the amount of money that's being made off of you and the amount of money that's not just being made off of you, but generational wealth that's being made off of you, the players next to you, and like that will continue to be made off of you for like years and years because of not necessarily like the legacy you personally leave, but like the legacy of like you just existing kind of and like being on the team is kind of disturbing to me. Like, I'm not trying to say, oh, poor these athletes who make money, but it is kind of like these athletes sacrifice something. Like, they do. If you get hit once, that's damage to your body. You could get addicted to some serious painkillers. You could, go through something traumatic. There is a level of sacrifice that a lot of these athletes have to go through to be on these sports teams. And again, like I said, this is not every single athlete, like there's exceptions, but I do feel like there the kind of like disparity of what happens here is a little crazy, if that makes sense. Do you get what I'm saying?
Well, that the owners are making a lot more money than the players, um, as
Yeah,
far as and yes, I do. I mean, I get what you're saying. I do think that I was just looking, and the the average salaries are pretty high, um,
of
but the
course. Absolutely.
minimum,
I'm not trying to
but the
deny that at all.
no, but what happened, and I think that the players associations have done a better job in recent years,
Hmm.
even recent decades, in trying to get the their fair share of the pie, if you will. The problem is that the owners have a tendency, in my opinion, to to have a second pie, if you
Yeah.
will,
Yeah.
and so that they have, they create income streams
Absolutely.
after deals are made with the
Yeah.
players associations, whether it's with FanDuel or these various
Yeah.
gambling groups or TV networks, what have you. The players can say, okay, we want a percentage of the income, but there's going to be a list of what those
Yeah.
income sources are. And then the leagues are going to say, okay, we'll give you that. And then they're going to go find some other sources of income
Yeah.
that so and I think that it's such big business. It's frightening how big a business it is and
Right.
how much money is in it. And yeah, the players make a lot of money, but they
Yeah.
need to um, they
But
are the
then
product.
what? Yeah, because I like the players make a lot of money, but do they make like generational wealth? Like, do they make like what, like if you're an average player, do you make like what next? Do you know what I mean? Like you gave your whole life for this career, right? You grew up with the whole kind of like this is what I'm gonna do for my life. And then at the age of maybe max like 30, that's over. And then it's like you might not have kind of, I mean, again, I'm kind of generalizing here, but is it possible you don't have like the proper resources of like therapy necessarily of like what do I do with my money? How do I use it properly to like set up things to like set my family up or like set up things so that like I continue to have money and like don't just like go spend all of it and like kind of let it slide away because it's like I have I like experienced this kind of burst of fame and success and now it's over. Like what do I do now? Do you know what I mean? Like there's no
Yeah,
path anymore. And I feel like the and again, I'm sure there's exceptions of teams that set their players up for that and, teach them like, hey, this is the way you should. And I'm sure there's colleges that do that too, of like, this is what fame is like. Like, this is what,
yeah.
when
And
you get money, this is
I
how you
think
should do this. But it is
there's
like,
leagues that do it too, but
yeah,
there
but
but you have to pay attention to it. And
yeah,
there's too many sort of vipers out there who are just looking to
yeah,
make a buck off these guys,
right,
and they need to be prepared for what it is that they're getting into because
right.
yeah, you're going to make millions of dollars. If you play in the NFL,
Yeah,
you're going to make millions of dollars. If you
of
play for more than
course.
1 year, you're going to make millions of dollars. And so,
Yeah,
how do you, um, what you do? I remember it might be Rob Gronkowski actually, who um, never spent a game check
yeah,
because of um, different money other income sources that he
yeah.
had. But
But he was
he
a
was a
huge
great
name.
player. Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, he was like,
exactly.
it wasn't just, I mean, he got Dunkin' Donuts advertisements. Like, not every guy gets that level of, and that's great for him. I'm so happy he got that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. But not
But
every guy is going to get that.
what
What
about
about
that
the
guy
guy
that's
that's,
on the guy
yeah,
that's the last guy on the roster who's
right.
making the minimum and
Which is
for
still a
one
lot of
year?
money, but yeah, I mean, what happens to him? So, and it's kind of like, I mean, you watch a lot of these documentaries and a lot of these guys talk about how, sports was a way to go to college. It was a way out of violence. It was a way out of gangs. It was a way out of poverty. But then you kind of see this almost happen where that's true, but then it almost like because they reach a certain level of success, the college, the aspect of like going to college doesn't become as important because it's like, well, now you can be a professional athlete. And it's like, that's awesome because you became really successful as a professional athlete, and that's great. But then it's like, but now you're dealing with something not obviously not worse than what you were dealing with before, but now you're dealing with like intense injury and intense like trauma in a different way. And yeah, you have money and you can like support your family, and that's amazing, but you also have like all this other stuff you got to deal with. And I want to talk a little bit about racism within sports, and because I think that's a huge part of like what these guys are dealing with. And I think that goes into like what a lot of this stuff is. And I mean, I think that's like when you see like the lack of diversity among the ownership in the top positions, and then you see the players who majority, especially football, basketball, are not white, and like the lack of control that they can have when they're like, I mean, we've seen now there's more control, especially basketball, where you get traded. Um, but still, it's kind of like there's certain parts where I'm like, this is not that far off from certain aspects that remind me of like going back to gladiators, like the original gladiators. And what was that? That was slavery. Because if you like take away the like ancient Roman concepts where slavery wasn't based on racism, slavery was based on like who you conquered, like slavery in America was based on racism. And a lot of sports here are racist. And I mean, we watched the Malice at the Palace documentary, and a lot of the imagery they were using to describe that those guys was fairly racist in my mind. I feel like you kind of picked up on that too.
Oh,
And
totally. I mean,
yeah,
it was all and the media covered it as such with
absolutely. The
it being a
thugs.
thug mentality. Yeah. And it
Yeah,
was, if you actually drill down on, I mean, that was a great documentary, and it
yeah.
was, you drill down on what was happening to these guys.
And seeing
Um,
them talk, it was like the complete opposite. Like they were clearly attacked, like seeing all the footage, like it was so obvious that it was framed purposely by the NBA to not make the fans mad and to like get at the players. Because the players are ours. The fans, we need the fans so that they pay money to us. But like kind of we own the players. Like we can control the players. And that makes me uncomfortable because the players are black men and you're a bunch of white men. Like that, I feel like that's the kind of mentality of a lot of sport team owners. And like I know that like the name owners makes sense because you own the sports team, but it does kind of like, it feels a
yeah,
little weird. Like it
yeah.
does. Um, I do want to bring up a quote because so the after I watched the Dallas
Cowboy.
documentary, yeah, the Cowboys documentary. I just was like a little curious because so that I'm pretty sure like is in collaboration with Netflix and the Cowboys, so it does like downplay some of the like it definitely isn't super positive about Jerry Jones, who is the owner that it focuses on, and he's still the owner of the Cowboys. Um, but I was just a little curious. I did a little more research on him and some of his like racist past because they like mentioned something, but they kind of didn't. And I was like, I just want to see what's going on here. So, um, Bob McNair, who I believe is the Houston owner, does that sound familiar to you? I could be wrong about that. Let me just double check that real quick.
Actually, at the time, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not anymore. Um,
They ran
because
him
I
out,
don't
didn't
think,
they?
I think he's dead. Yeah, because of this comment. Yes, he was the owner of the Houston, Texas at the time that he made this comment. But around the time of like Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem and like a lot of the black players following in that movement, he made a comment along the lines of, "We can't have inmates running the prison," which is just like so disturbing and so like obviously dehumanizing of athletes and so overtly racist. I mean, come on. And I think he like made an apology that was obviously like a PR apology. And Jerry Jones said like what he said was accurate and it wasn't racist. It was just like a no, like it's just saying like we're in charge and we can't have them doing things against us. Which is of course he said that. Um, and then he later on like did a PR kneeling with the athletes, which of course he did because they have to do that stuff. But I just feel like that is kind of incumbent of the way like the owners kind of see. Again, not all of them, but just, some of them see themselves like among the system of this is like these are like my prisoners, like the teams are like mine. Um, like these players are my property, kind of like they belong to me. They'll do whatever I want to. And it reminds me of the coach of the Clippers who made the comments also. Do you remember what his name was? Okay,
No.
wait, I gotta look this up. Was it Sterling?
Oh, the owner of Donald Sterling, the
Yeah,
owner of
not
the
the owner,
Clippers.
sorry. I mean the
Yeah.
owner, not the
Oh,
coach.
yeah. He was really bad
Yeah.
news.
So I'm listening to a podcast right now about Donald Sterling and it talks about, so obviously the recordings of him and his comments came out, which were like awful on their own. Because he was like telling his mistress to like not be seen with black men, I think was like the what was recorded. But then all this stuff came out about how like he would parade his his team out at parties, but the way he would like talk about the athletes was like really disturbing. Like one of the players who was interviewed for this podcast talked about how like he described him as like a buck, like a young buck, and like instantly this player was like, I felt like I was on like a slave trading block. Like I instantly was like my body felt like a possession, like it didn't feel like I was a person. Like that was like it just felt like I was like being paraded around the party. And he was like, I had been at owner dinners before, like that kind of event where you're like a player going to like that level of an event where you're like mingling with the top people, and that was like different. So again, it's not every team is like this, but the fact that it exists at all is kind of disturbing. Um, and like I said, I think it's disturbing just in general that like there's very, I don't think there's a single football team that's owned by anyone that's not white. I think
I,
there's one
I'm
basketball
not arguing
team.
with you.
Okay. I think there's only one basketball team that's owned by someone who's not white. And I think that's like it,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Because
that
hockey and baseball, like same.
what you have is a situation where you have
And then even coaches.
all of these guys that, the great players who made all the money,
Yeah.
um, now want to get into ownership, but because
Yeah.
they made all the money, because they were so successful for their teams, the
Right.
teams have now become worth so much
Way
more that
more.
they
Yeah.
can't afford to buy into the teams.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
But the coaches is not as bad.
No,
I think you
no,
have a lot
not
more black coaches, both
absolutely.
in basketball and football. Um,
But
and
it's
this
like that shouldn't be the like
noticed.
it only goes that far. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's like because I mean that was the other thing I noticed in the Jerry Jones thing was like um someone made a comment. So a lot of the documentary is about the relationship between Jerry Jones and his ex best friend slash coach,
Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. Thank you. And how Jerry Jones didn't like that Jimmy Johnson, the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, was getting credit for their Super Bowl wins. And he wanted credit for the wins. And like everybody was like, but you didn't sacrifice anything. And like Jimmy Johnson got divorced from his wife. He like was constantly with the team. Like he did. That's what I'm talking about. Like even he like sacrificed something. No, he wasn't like brutally injured on the field day in, day out, but like he gave time and effort. What did Jerry Jones, what has he given to the Dallas Cowboys? Like nothing. He just takes from them. You know what I mean? Like he just continues to like make an ass of himself and make a lot of money off of them. But what does he care if he makes an ass of himself? Like he continues to make a lot of money. Like, I mean, so it's
Yeah,
like,
we have a lot of people in this country who don't seem to care about making an
no,
ass of themselves. But
exactly. So it's
I'm
like
not
he's
really. Again, we don't want to get political.
no, but this is, I
um,
mean, it's very similar to politics in a way. I mean, it is. It's like
well,
you you kind of need more better systems in place so that it doesn't rely on kind of good actors to be the ones who are like preventing severe things from happening, right?
right. Well, that's. I
Uh,
mean, you get. I mean, we touched on this, and I do think that the leagues, again, a little blue skyish, but the leagues are trying to with financial management and putting it out there
mhm.
and trying to teach guys, and you can't.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to listen, and not everybody's
Of
going to
course.
take it
Of course.
properly. And you look at the NBA gambling scandal that's out right now,
Yeah.
or the Major League Baseball pitching scandal, where
Oh
guys
yeah.
are you know, making money off, well, I threw a ball. I just got to,
Yeah.
not a strike. I'm going to throw a ball in this situation and I'm going to make money off of it. And
Hmm.
um, and the leagues, again, as with so many things, there you do need a more vivid imagination when you start making these rules about how things work and try to figure out, okay, what are the bad actors going to do to take advantage of this, and how do I regulate that out? And
Yeah.
obviously, we've switched away from uh, injuries or anything like that, but injuries are part of that too. Is teams
Oh, for
not
sure.
teams not saying who's hurt, or teams saying somebody is hurt, which is going to affect the lines on the games and stuff like that. And the leagues
Absolutely.
need to make regulations to prevent these things, but it's always one step behind that
Yeah.
the governing bodies, whether it's in sports or in politics or whatever, are always one step behind, and they
Hmm.
need to learn to, even if they can't be one step ahead, they need to be a closer step behind
I get
and
what
be
you're
more
saying now.
reactive, and as soon as you see something or even think about something and you or hear about something that maybe could happen, well, if it maybe could happen, let's regulate it out right now.
Hmm. Yeah.
And they don't do that, and so hopefully they will do that.
It does feel like it feels like they're having discussions about things that we started talking about like 10 years ago.
Right.
Kind of like they're only starting to talk about them now. Like that's how it feels. And it's like, where have you guys been? Like
Well,
we're
I mean, with the whole concussion thing, and
right.
guys, it's been going on for so long, and now, yes, now you're changing the kickoff rules, but you could have done that
Yeah.
10,
Yeah.
15 years ago. And so
Right.
even, this is not necessarily, well, it is. It with baseball. People talk about how slow baseball is for
Yeah.
decades,
Yeah.
and it got slower and slower. And you go back to the Red Sox in 2003, 2004 when they're playing the Yankees and they're having these 4-hour games, and it's like, we were at a game and we just said, no, we have to leave. It's almost
Yeah.
midnight and we got to go home. And you know, finally, 20
Yeah.
years later, they put
Yeah.
in some rules to speed up the game, and it's like, oh my, this is fun.
Right.
Why didn't you do that before? Maybe you'd have more fans now
Yeah.
because, you got to react to things, and the players don't. I'm sorry.
No.
David Ortiz would not have complained
No.
if you
No. No.
said
No.
you can't get out of the box and tighten your
No.
gloves every time. You just can't do it. Okay, because
Yeah.
you're
It would
making
have been fine.
$25 million.
No, he would have been
If you're
fine.
gonna keep paying me, I'll stay in the
I'll
box.
get on
Okay,
board. Yeah.
I'll figure it out. I've got a
Yeah.
pitch. Oh,
So speaking of something that's kind of um I guess getting on board finally, and I think is an improvement. I mean, I think it will take some like it's going to take some like getting used to, and there will be an adjustment period of like figuring out how this works and like management of it and all that kind of stuff is college compensation and like student athlete compensation and all this kind of stuff. But I want to talk about it through the perspective of Johnny
oh,
Football.
jeez.
So I watched there's an untold Johnny Football. So Johnny Manziel was a quarterback for Texas A&M when Texas A&M joined the SEC. Is
Yeah,
that? Yeah. So Texas A&M did not have a Division 1 football program, and they started one, and they needed a really good quarterback to kind of, you know, bring them into this program and build it for them. And they found Johnny, and boy, was he just great, except for off the field. Johnny was quite the partier. And to be fair to Johnny, he was not getting paid, and he could see that Texas A&M was making bank off of him. He kind of figured out some ways, you know, below board to make some money off of himself, and you know, he did that for a little while, but after 2 years with A&M, he went pro, which, I feel like was way too early for him to do that. And I think if he was in the position he was in today, he would have probably stayed in college and, been able to have made some money and not feel like his school was taking advantage of him and just like, it was like they were selling t-shirts with his name on it and he's getting nothing. They're building a stadium with off of his back. He wins a Heisman Trophy his freshman year, and it's like it's all about him. The old like they didn't have any fans. He's the reason they have fans, and it's like it's all Johnny Football, and it's like you're not gonna like I get nothing because of this kind of, and it's like not even from like a money perspective, but it feels like the school didn't even really want to give him the credit. And I think part of that was because he definitely was kind of this like frat bro personality off the field. So I think they, didn't love that. But it's like I could see as like an 18-year-old being like, what the hell, man? Like, I did all of this. You're building this massive stadium. Like, where's my cut? Like what do you mean? And so he goes pro. I believe he went to the Browns, I
sounds
think.
right.
That sounds
Sounds
right.
right.
And it just he's not ready. Like
Well, he
he
wasn't,
wasn't
he was not a pro style quarterback. He just ran
no.
around. He was crazy.
No, he just kind of that's how he played football. He played football the way he lived life. He just kind of did whatever he wanted. He didn't like to practice. He liked to party. He just did what he wanted. And so that's how he played football. So he wasn't very like he wasn't great at being part of a team. He just kind of ran the ball and he was good. And I think for like the Texas A&M program, they didn't have like a great football team. So he was great at just doing what he wanted because the rest of the guys could just like protect him. So that's all they had to do. So that was like easy kind of for them to do. They didn't have to get in any position. So he just like ran wherever. And it's like, okay, well, there's Johnny. So just don't let anyone touch him, kind of a thing. Um, so yeah, I mean, it doesn't go well for him. Some pretty bad stuff happens. He does some pretty bad stuff. I think he ends up in rehab, but I mean, I do feel like this stuff doesn't really happen to him if he kind of had, you know, better support from his college and from like if he was getting more, if like he was, I don't know, if he was able to get a brand deal, if he was able to kind of make some money, if he probably would have been able to stay in school longer. I mean, maybe he still doesn't get disciplined, but maybe by the time he leaves college 2 years later, he's gotten some of the partying out of his system now, right? It's like, okay, now I'm ready to be a professional football player. But it seems like the decision to be a professional football player was just based on, I need to make money now. Like, it's not fair that they're building this program off of me and I'm not getting a cut of it, rather than I'm actually ready to go pro, which I think is most people's decision is I'm ready for this rather than I'm ready to make money. Does that make sense to you, kind of?
It makes sense. I have a couple of comments.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
One comment is, and you clearly you watched the documentary about him.
Yeah.
You may know more about him than I do, but I think
Well,
that
I don't
I
know.
also have thoughts about college athletics at that time, and I think it's a
I'm
little
sure, yeah.
naive. I think it's a little naive to think that he wasn't making something to play at Texas A&M
Well,
down
yeah.
under the table. And so I'm wondering if he left early because he just didn't like the rigidity of college, period. Um, and the other thing I just wanted to bring up because you are so young. Uh,
Okay.
there was a guy, and then it reminded me of him, but not for the bad reasons.
Okay.
But Doug Flutie playing at Boston College in
Hmm.
the early 1980s was Johnny Manziel
Hmm.
um, on the field, and 5'10", maybe more like 5'8", and just ran around on the field, made plays, won the Heisman Trophy, and literally put Boston College on the map as far as athletics was concerned. At the
Hmm.
time, and I'm anybody has an issue with this, they can bring it up. But I think that at the time that Doug Flutie was at BC, it was right after BC had joined the Big East, and so was starting to get good at basketball. They had basketball players who played on that team who went to night school because it wasn't a great school. It was not a great
Hmm.
academic institution,
Yeah.
and it was a local college that pe people went to, but they got in the Big East and they were able to improve the basketball program. And then Doug Flutie, this kid from Natick, Massachusetts, down the street here, showed up, was the fifth string quarterback, and eventually worked his way into becoming the starter because when he played, they won. And he got him into the top 20. They played home games, some home games at in Foxborough because their
Mm,
stadium wasn't big enough for the enthusiasm of the crowds that they could get when they played.
mm,
They played Alabama, they played Penn State, and they beat these teams. And
mm,
if you look at probably the top 10 or top 20 moments in college football history, Doug Flutie's pass against Miami on the day after Thanksgiving in probably 1984 will be on there because it is one of the great moments in college football history. Doug Flutie was unbelievable, went to the NFL, went the USFL was going. Actually, I think he became the quarterback of the New Jersey Generals of the USFL, which was the competing league to the NFL. And the New Jersey Generals were owned by Donald Trump. Uh, um, and
love
Flutie then
that.
then the NFL had the players went on strike, and Doug Flutie wasn't in the NFL, so he came and he played for the Patriots. Um, he did some things that I think he may have drop kicked a ball for like a field goal or something.
Oh
I
my
remember he could
God.
do anything. I remember when I worked at BC in the late 80s. I
Mm,
remember we had a pickup basketball game at lunchtime one day, and Doug Flutie was there, and he played, and
mm,
he was unbelievable. Just a
mm.
really great athlete. And you still see him on TV. He does commercials. He was a broadcaster on ESPN for a while. So he's done very well, but he deserves credit for putting Boston College on the map as far as a college.
Yeah,
And now it's a great academic institution.
that's really
If they
cool.
hadn't gone to the ACC, they would probably still be a very good basketball program, but they did. Anyway,
That's
um,
cool. I mean, yeah, I think you're probably right about the stuff you said about Manziel. I think it's just I mean, we'll never know, right?
no,
Like what would
right.
have happened to him. I do just think it's like if you give someone a little more time to bake
Oh no,
in
I
college, I
totally
think
agree.
there's more of a chance that they have a better professional career
Yeah,
because there's
yeah,
I mean, and you are right. Like he definitely talks about also like he talked a lot about in the documentary how it was hard to go like overnight kind of become famous. Not necessarily on a world stage, but on like a campus stage
yeah,
because it
yeah,
was like I couldn't go to class anymore. Like I couldn't do anything. And while he liked it in the party part of life, he didn't like it in the day part of life. So it's like, I don't know, it's an interesting thing. Um, but yeah, this has been a very interesting conversation, I think. We've touched on a lot of things here. Do you have anything else you wanna finish up with? You
No, I
want
think
to
that
add?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
I thank you for doing as much information as research as you did for this.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we'll revisit some of these things as time goes
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
And
yeah, of course.
I want to warn people, and I was not aware of this, that we're talking about the effectiveness of players associations and how they negotiate. And I'm already hearing that the 2027 baseball season is likely not going to happen or start because
Oh,
their player contract is up and at the end of 2026. And so now owners are and players are thinking about contracts, and free agents are coming up, and okay, well, how do I work it so that when we go on strike in 2027,
yeah.
and having lived through that, it's not fun as a sports fan.
Yeah.
I remember
Wow.
in I'm going to say 1993, 94. um, baseball and hockey were both locked out or on strike, depending on whose side you take, whether it was the owners locking them out or the players saying, we're not going to go. And I was working at New England Sports Network at the time, and New England Sports Network covered the Bruins and the Red Sox. So that was a bit
You're like,
challenging.
well, this is interesting. We got a
So
lot to do here.
if you get your hands on it, you could probably find the 1986 Game 6 of the World Series between the Red Sox and the Mets, in which magically Jeannie from I Dream of Jeannie showed up and made Bill Buckner catch the ball and get out at first base, and the Red Sox won the World Series. It was an amazing time. So we tried to get creative to try to get
Oh my
some kind of
God.
programming.
Oh
Um,
God. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm gonna quickly just list off some of the documentaries that I've watched if anybody's interested in checking them out. I hope that's okay with you, Dad.
Sure.
I didn't tell
I
you
could
I was
also
gonna do
drop
this.
them in the show notes so you can send them to me.
I can do that. So we have the mind. So all of these, I think they're all on Netflix. But the Mind of Aaron Hernandez, Mr. McMahon, America's Team. That's the Dallas Cowboys one. And then Muscles and Mayhem is the American Gladiators one. And then Untold is a collection of it's either a collection of documentaries or like some of them are a couple episodes long. It's a collection on Netflix of different stories. That one has like the Malice at the Palace one, Johnny Football. It has one on Tom Donahue, uh some
NBA
other
referee scandal.
yeah, that was the NBA referee scandal. It has one on the Michigan sign stealing thing. There's a lot there that are all very interesting. I personally,
We watched the Malice at the
yeah,
Palace
that's the
together,
best
and
one,
that was
in my
really good.
opinion.
If you don't know what that is, it's an amazing story.
Yeah,
That
that
when
was,
you
I
when
mean,
you
I
see
was
it, you'll
fascinated.
remember if you're of a certain age, like if you're over 30 or 35, you would remember what happened at the palace and
Yeah.
watch the documentary and find out what actually happened.
I
And
do just want to
also,
actually really quickly shout out those four players that were in that: Ron Artest, Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, and Reggie Miller, because I was like so just blown away by the four of them. Like they're all so cool. Like
yeah,
just amazing. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And this is not a documentary that you watch, but I will say that you and I were together recently, and um, I showed you the Immaculate Reception,
Yeah.
and
Very cool.
if you can go and watch the Immaculate Reception, you will not be
Oh,
disappointed.
but we did, there's on YouTube on the NFL that there's a little video about the camera guy.
Yes, the camera guy for NFL Films and what
Yeah.
he did for the Immaculate Reception, and you just got to go see that. And
I think if you just Google camera immaculate reception end
you'll
zone, you
find it.
should probably be able to
Yeah,
find it.
yeah. The end zone
Very
angle is
cool.
unbelievable. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But this has been really fun. Like I said, this has kind of been my recent obsession, but and we didn't even really get into all the stuff I had about basketball injuries recently, but that's okay. Um, I'm sure we haven't really have we done a big basketball episode? Maybe that'll be coming soon for you guys. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to this two-parter. Thanks for sticking in there with us. We appreciate it. We will talk to you next week. Bye, Dad.
bye, girl.
Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed the episode, follow us on your favorite podcast platforms, rate us, and leave a review.